lovely people, my name is Emma and today I'm going to be showing you every unread book that is currently on my Kindle. So I have my Kindle here. I will link where I got the case down below because they're really cute and you can personalise them. It says Emma's Library on the side. Sorry, motorbike going by. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to like change the camera angle and show you all the unread books I have on my Kindle. There's about 58 at the moment and they quite often get missed out when I do book hauls. So there's probably some stuff in there that I haven't talked about on this channel or like not really mentioned before. And I've also been buying quite a lot on my Kindle in lockdown because obviously it's quite easy to jump on Amazon and do that rather than missing out on physically going to bookstores anymore. And I'm always a sucker for the like $1.99 or 99p books deals that they quite often do on there. So I'm going to attempt to angle you down so that you can see the screen in the hope that that way I don't have to edit an unbelievable number of titles and covers into this, and we're going to see if that works. So apologies if the angle on this is really bloody weird. Okay, we're going to attempt to do this. I think the footage is going to be upside down, but I'm going to work out how to flip it in post, honest, and if not then I guess I'll refilm this another time. So let's jump in to my Kindle. I don't think you can see that very well. Should we zoom in a bit more even so? No, wrong direction. Okay, so you can see the different folders that I have here. My currently reading is where I put books that I'm interested in for that month, but the one that we're interested in is the To Be Read, which has 57 books in it at the moment. So they are in alphabetical order and I'm going to roll through them roughly in that order as well. So the first three books you can see on the top, those are the Lara Adrian books. We've got Break the Day, Claimed in Shadows and Midnight Unleashed. Those are the remaining ones. It's 2 full books and a novella that I have left in the Midnight Breed series. Then we have Life on Edge, which is by Jim Al-Kahili and John Joe McFadden, I believe is what that says. This is about quantum biology, which I do not know what that is, but I'm intrigued to find out. So this was quite cheap on Kindle and it looks really exciting. And I actually have another book by Jim Al-Kahili, which is on my physical shelf, which is about the history of Arabic science, called Pathfinders, that also looks really exciting. So when I saw an author that I recognised, I thought I'd jump onto that. Then I have some more of the Animorphs books. These are the next ones that I need to read in the series. I think there's 4 of them there. Hagseed by Margaret Atwood. This is a retelling of The Tempest, I believe, for the Hogarth Shakespeare series. And there's also, I've got Oryx and Crake, I think that is. Some of the things get covered by her, which is like a dystopian world kind of mini series, I think. Then there's Semiosis by Sue Burke. This is like a sci-fi which is something to do with a planet where I think the plants start to kind of take over and it's basically humans land and have very bad interactions with the wildlife is the vibe I get from that. So I'm really intrigued about that one. I've been on a super like sci-fi plant kick recently. This is Queenie by Candice Artie Williams. I think that's missing a letter. I'm sorry, I didn't realise so many of these different bits would be covered. This has been described as Bridget Jones's Diary meets Americana, and it's about a Jamaican British woman who goes through a bad breakup and it's about her kind of dealing with the aftermath of that. It looks really fun and interesting and has been very, very popular on BookTube, so keen for that one. You're going to now see some of the myriad of very, very exciting contemporary romances we have. I've got Not the Girl You Marry by Andy J. Christopher, I think is what that says. Again, sorry, it's covered. I don't know anything about that one. Apologies. Some of these I know nothing about beyond that they're contemporary romance that I've heard spoken of very highly and they were cheap. We have 4 Alyssa Coles. I'm committing to Alyssa Cole. I'm going to believe the hype already. I have The AI Who Loved Me, which is about a woman who falls in love with an AI program. I'm so psyched about that one. And then I have the 3 full books rather than novellas in her Reluctant Royal series, which is A Duke by Default, A Prince on Paper and A Princess in Theory. I think A Princess in Theory is the first one, don't quote me on that. I'm going to try and get to Alyssa Cole fairly soon, so I'm really excited by these. I know that there are some novellas connected to this series as well, but I thought I'd just go for the physical, like the big books to begin with, not physical main novels. This is The Mistress of Spices by Chitra Banajir Divakaruni. This is a magical realism book set in India, and it's supposed to be kind of a fantasy romance that looked really exciting and interesting. To be honest, I don't know a crazy amount apart from the main woman character has magic and sort of magic abilities. This was another cheap on Kindle purchase that looked exciting and interesting. We've got The Last Werewolf by Glenn Duncan. I'm assuming it's about werewolves. I had this, deleted it, and then Olive from a Book Olive spoke very highly of it, so it's gone back on. God knows when I'm going to get around to it. And then we have The Book of the Unnamed Midwife by Meg Ellison. This is a dystopian post-apocalyptic kind of thing. I always say dystopian when I mean post-apocalyptic. Basically, the world's gone to crap, and this is a midwife who travels around the world helping pregnant women because healthcare has gone completely, absolutely to crap as well. And it's part of a trilogy series, I believe. I picked it up ages ago, and I'm really excited to read it, and I need to actually prioritise it. Then I have The Future Home of the Living God by Louise Edrick. I'm going to assume that's what that says there. And this one, again, is something to do with like a post-apocalyptic world and reproduction, I believe. Yes, evolution has reversed itself, affecting every living creature on Earth. Science can't stop the world from running backwards, and women after women give birth to infants that appear to be primitive versions of the species. It all kind of looks a bit crazy and zany, and we've got kind of sci-fi connected with motherhood going on there. This is Claudia Gray's Defy the Stars, which is like a sci-fi epic kind of vibe going on. I think it was mentioned recently on... Okay, I can't remember the channel, but somebody mentioned it recently and said that it was about somebody who falls in love with an AI, and I love AI kind of as a concept and sort of discussions on personal identity, so that has made that one jump really high up on the list as something interesting and exciting to read, so I might try and get to it in August. Meet Cute Club by, I think that says Jack Harbon or Hanbon. Again, apologies, graphics are terrible. This is a gay contemporary romance, and it is about kind of a gruff gentleman who scorns a customer who is purchasing a lot of romance books, I believe, and then it's about him trying to make amends for that. So that looks interesting. Then I've got Sex with Kings, which is on my July TBR, and this is by Eleanor Herman, and this is a history looking at the various mistresses that kings have had, kind of the power that they've had historically. We've got Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, and that is... I thought I had the other one in there as well. Never mind. This is a contemporary romance. Again, it's on my TBR for July, and it's about a woman with a chronic illness, and I believe potentially even a terminal illness, and it's about her trying to kind of live her life bucket list style, I believe. Got You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogle, which is married couple or soon to be married couple who have fallen out of love, having a bit of a bickering argument thing, but then they fall back in love. Smoke and Summons by Charlie N. Holmberg. This was a purchase ages ago. I might delete it soon. It's book one of a new series by Charlie N. Holmberg. I can't remember what this one's about. I think it's demons, and basically I am not particularly excited about it anymore because Charlie N. Holmberg is not a great writer, if we're entirely honest, and I have mixed feelings about their work. We have Aisha at Last by Umza Jalalundi, I think that says. This is a retelling of Pride and Prejudice but with Muslim main characters. It looks really interesting. Is on my July TBR. The Last by Hannah Jameson. This is a closed circle, isolated closed circle mystery taking place in like a mansion, but I think it's either in a zombie apocalypse or just an apocalypse in general, where the characters can't leave for whatever reason, but then there's a murder going on as well. Looks kind of cool. I really need to prioritise that one soon. See, this is why these kind of videos are great, to remind you of the books you own. Then we have The House of Many Ways by Diana Wynne Jones. It's book 3 in the Howl's Moving Castle trilogy. It focuses more back on Howl and Sophie because book 2 really didn't, so at some point I'll finish that series. Toxic by Lydia Kang. I think that's a YA book, and it's about a woman, a girl born on a spaceship where she wasn't ever supposed to be born, I believe. Although I might be confusing that with something else. We'll never know. Undercover Bromance by Alyssa K. Adams. This is book 2 from her series, and it's focusing on one of the kind of secondary characters from the Bromance book club, and that looks really fun. The Fated Sky by Mary Robinette Kowal is book 2 in her Lady Astronaut series. It's about the space race, but framed in a context where we needed to get off of Earth due to an asteroid causing like a kind of soon to be impending extinction event, and so because of that there's more pressure to try and get everybody off of Earth, which looks really interesting. The Poppy War by F.R. Kang. This is a high fantasy which draws from Asian history. I believe it's on Japanese history. I'll put up on the somewhere on the screen if I'm wrong about that one, but everybody speaks very, very highly about it on BookTube, so eventually I'll get around to reading it. I'm not letting myself start many more new series at the moment until I've finished some of the ones I have going on. Polaris Rising by Jesse Mihalik. Sci-fi, no, nothing else apart from that it's sci-fi. Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. This is a magical realism book that is focused on, I believe, Mexican culture and folklore. Very popular on BookTube. Critical by Dr. Matt Morgan. This is stories from the front line of an intensive care unit. We all know I love me some medical stuff, so that's why that one's in there. We've got The Test by Sylvain Nouveau, which is a novella from the guy who wrote the Themis Files trilogy, which looks really interesting. I've heard mixed reviews from The Test, but it's quite short, so why not? Witchmark by C.L. Polk, which is Edwardian historical fiction but with magic overlaid over the top, which I'm kind of intrigued by, but it's been sat there for ages. 2 by Kate Quinn, which is The Alice Network and The Huntress. They're both about spy networks, I believe, so they're both historical thrillers set in World War II, with slightly different vibes to them. They were both quite cheap, and I actually think I bought one of them first and then forgot I'd bought a Kate Quinn and bought another one, and was like, I really should read the first one I bought before I get the second one. They're not connected, but before buying another book of hers, but whoops, we have 2 now. But I like World War II fiction, so whatever. Taylor Jenkins Reid One True Loves, which is a romance of some sort. I thought it's not the Parallel Universe one because I've already read that. I have very mixed feelings about Taylor Jenkins Reid, so I don't know whether I'm going to get around to that, but it's contemporary romance. The Boyfriend Project is another contemporary romance. Can't remember what about. We've got The Witcher. Oh, sorry, The Boyfriend Project is by Farah Jashon? I'm sorry, it's covered again. I will put on the screen what it is. Then we have The Witcher, or book 1 of The Witcher, which is actually The Last Wish, which is a collection of short stories set in the Witcher world, I believe, which is by Andrzej Sapkowicz, I think. Sorry, again, half of it's covered, so I'll put it on the screen. I'm very intrigued by the Witcher world. I watched the TV series, thought it was very cool, very interesting, but I'm not letting myself start any more high fantasy before I finish at least one of the series I have on the go at the moment. Art on Fire by Hilary Sloane. This is a fake biography of a lesbian artist and about her body of work, and it was so convincing I actually won some non-fiction prizes, even though the biography, the person is completely entirely fictional, so I'm really intrigued by that. Very like crossing the lines between fiction and non-fiction. The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa. I believe this is either a fake dating or an enemies to lovers trope, so excited about that. Another contemporary romance. We've got The Food Explorer by Daniel Stone, and this is about a globe-trotting botanist who transformed what America eats. I can't remember exactly which person in history this is about, but I'm intrigued by historical food writing, and the cover looks really cool, so at some point I'll get around to that one. I have The Dreamers by Karen Thompson Walker, and also The Age of Miracles by Karen Thompson Walker. For some reason they're not next to each other because Kindle has decided in one instance to put it under T and in one instance to put it under W. Interesting. They are both something to do with some kind of like slightly apocalyptic-y event going on. In one of them people start to fall asleep, and in the other one the day gets extended. And I haven't read either of them, but I'm quite intrigued by her as an author, and I can't remember if they're YA or not, but I think that's going to be generally quite interesting. We have War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, the exact edition that I have on my shelf, and one day I will read it, and I think the Kindle version might be helpful because it's just, practically speaking, such a big ass book that it's very hard to carry it around, so I might eventually get to it if it's on here. Enchanté by Gita Treslis, I think that says. That's a very flouncy font in a frankly terrible image, so can't remember. We'll put it on the screen. This one I think is a historical magical realism set in France, but I could be confusing it with something else. It's been on my Kindle for ages. This is one I also need to read. Then we have 2 Jules Verne. We've got 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and Around the World in 80 Days. I have both these in physical form but in like a bind up, so it's now already moved its way onto my classic shelf, so I figure having them on here means I'm slightly more likely to get to them. I have read Journey to the Centre of the Earth. I didn't particularly enjoy it. I didn't think it was particularly great as far as classics go, so God knows when I'll ever actually get around to these 2, but it's nice to have them because they're super cheap on Kindle, so like, why not? I'll Stop by, I'm going to assume that says Laura Jane Williams. Again, half of it is covered by these little ticks. I did not think this through when I decided to rely on this. This one's a meet cute about missing each other on a train, I believe, so I think that's going to be really good fun, contemporary romance. The Catalogue of Shipwrecked Books by Edward Wilson Lee. Again, I will put it over here somewhere. This is about a gentleman who collected a lot of books, historically speaking, and then like almost created one of the first libraries, I believe, but I might have got that confused with something else. But it looks really interesting and was on the super long list for the BookTube prize, and I was slightly gutted it didn't make it any further because I obviously had it and was like looking for an excuse to read it, so I'd like to get to that one at some point. One that is actually on the BookTube prize is Solitary by Robert Woodfox. This is about a gentleman who spent 4 decades in solitary confinement, and it's about his story. This was actually on the list for what would have been my round if not bowed out, but I've heard it's a bit intense, and honestly reading about somebody's experiences in solitary confinement whilst in a lockdown, whilst in no way is comparable, is also comparable enough that I don't want to do that right now. So at some point I will read this, but I need it to not be when we're severely restricted to being able to see people. And then this is Red Clocks by, I think it's Rennie Zumas, but I again will put it over here if that's wrong because it's covered. This is 4 women's stories. It's like a dystopian future fiction where women's reproductive rights have been basically tinkered with again and severely restricted, and it's about 4 different women's kind of interactions with whatever particular instance of oppression this book is playing with. I have quite a few books on this list of like connected with women and motherhood and like reproductive rights in general, and playing around with them in some kind of dystopian or post-apocalyptic vibe, so I could do with reading some of them. It's something that I enjoy reading about, but then sometimes it can get a bit intense, so at some point I will read these, and that is all of them. So quite a few. I do get through some of them quite quickly, and I don't really mind having quite a lot on my Kindle, so the contemporary romances I'm going to blitz quite easily, and there definitely is way more fiction than non-fiction on here. So those are some of the books that I've bought recently, slash some of the ones that have been hanging around on here for a while. I do clear this out quite regularly of things that I'm no longer interested in reading as well. So yeah, that's kind of really it from this video. Let me know if there's anything in particular you'd like me to focus on for August, because obviously my July TBR is fairly set, and I am filming this technically on the last day of June. I'm doing like a big bumper of filming loads of things, so I've no idea when you guys are personally going to be actually seeing this. So yeah, let me know what you think in general, and I will chuck whatever I need to link down below. So that's it from me. Have a wonderful reading week, and I'll chat to you soon. Let's like wave weirdly from this angle. Bye.